r/askreddit. What's something you thought was common knowledge but actually isn't? Taxes. I opened a new facility and hired a couple hundred people here recently, and the number of people approaching me about their paycheck being incorrect due to taxes is astounding. Edit. Really trying to stay up on comments. I didn't expect this to blow up like it has. Edit 2. Lovely. My top voted comment of all time is bitching about people not understanding wage taxation. You guys are odd. I worked with a woman in her 30s who didn't know taxes were automatically taken out of her paycheck. Most people seem genuinely oblivious to a lot of stuff, including their immediate surroundings. Also, people that don't understand progressive tax brackets and think that if they get a raise they're going to end up losing money because they're in a higher tax bracket. Yeah, always happens for fresh employees. We have a taxation-free amount, but in order to have it added to your salary, you need to send your tax report to the employer. Most people forgot it and wondered why they got paid less than the others. My brother, 18, was screaming the other day that his job wasn't paying him correctly. They were giving him net pay instead of his normal paycheck. It pains me that this kid can legally vote. Just because eggs are sold in the dairy section doesn't make them a dairy product. I've heard people say they don't eat eggs because they don't eat dairy. I have often wondered why eggs are sold in the dairy section in US supermarkets. Surely, this must be some supermarket strategy and not just dumb. I didn't know eggs weren't dairy. Gambling at a casino will most likely result in losing money. If you find you're winning, quit when you've won. Remember the scene in Ocean's 13 where everyone wins and then leave the casino because there's an earthquake? Yeah, do that. Years ago I dated the general manager of a casino in Louisiana and can confirm you crazy cat 15. He said that the only way to win other than dumb luck is blackjack, 50/50, craps, 50/50, roulette, 50/50 if you stick to red and black. Slot machines are 90% in favor of the house. Edit. For everyone saying 50/50 is off, remember that this was a guy I was boning 20 years ago and we weren't sharing statistical analysis of casino wagering other than casual conversation. The on-ramp is for accelerating to highway speeds before you reach the highway. Holy shit, this is my biggest pet peeve. I'll argue all day long that if you can't understand why it is dangerous as fuck to try to merge with traffic going 20-40 mph faster than you are probably going to be in an accident or cause one sooner rather than later. Also, the more expensive the vehicle, the more likely that the driver will absolutely not care about their impact on other people. Another related point is that the person entering the highway doesn't have right of way. That is, they have to yield to traffic already on the highway. At least, that's true in both the state I live in and the state I live in. And the correlation, the off-ramp is for decelerating. You don't need to start braking a half mile before the exit Todd. My ex used to enter highways at 35 miles per hour and it was terrifying. How to stay in one's own lane when turning from one street to another. Related, how to get completely out of the through lane when a turn lane appears. When a parking ends and the turn lane begins, go all the way into that lane to make the turn, not just halfway. That antibiotics kill bacteria, but won't do anything against viruses. Everyone has the idea that if you get a cold, you see your doctor and get antibiotics. Take some acetaminophen, paracetamol and ibuprofen, and stay away from other humans for a while. But taking pills equals getting well. Those damn doctors don't want to help me. You can't kill something that isn't alive. Alcohol has calories. I had to be the one to tell my friend when she was in her mid-20s that the vodka she loved has calories. She was so shocked and said, "What?" I thought since it was clear like water it didn't have any calories. Alcohol has lots of calories. More than sugar, by mass. Alcohol has about 7 calories per gram. In comparison, protein and carbs have 4, fat has 9. To be fair, vodka is one of the most low-calorie alcoholic drinks. That other planets are visible from Earth. And the sun is also a star. Sitting outside one evening having a beer with my sister. Really clear sky, lots of stars out, and she says someone was telling me that stars are like the sun, but further away. I paused to check if she was kidding. but she genuinely thought she was sharing obscure knowledge. We were in our mid-20s. I don't know how this information had passed her by up to that point. And on the same topic, that is the inclination of Earth on its own axis, and not its distance from the sun that generates seasons. I've seen some Jimmy Kimmel skits where people are asked where certain well-known places in the world are, like where is Australia? Where is Africa, and they literally can't point to them on a map, or they think Africa is a country. I just don't understand how people don't know this stuff. Anyone could miss Canada on a map, all tucked away down there. Those clips though only show the people who either don't know or are trolling. It wouldn't be as funny if you show 10 people pointing to the correct location. That narwhals exist are real. People have thought that I was trolling them by talking about a mythical unicorn whale. I do private tours in Hawaii, one of which is Iolani Palace, the royal palace of the Kingdom of Hawaii. In their collection, they have a walking stick which belonged to King Kalakaua that's made from a narwhal tusk. I think it's extremely cool, but I don't even say anything about it anymore because so many people don't know what a narwhal is. For many of them, it's not that they think they're made up, they've just never heard of it. It makes me sad that the vast majority of telecommunications traffic between countries is carried via undersea fiber optic cables. My mom worked for AT&T Submarine Systems in the 90s. I got to tour one of the ships that laid cable. The cable rooms were unbelievably gigantic. Don't pet service dogs. I used to think everyone knew this, until I got one. Don't pet them, talk to them, make kissy noises, bark at them. Grown-ass adults barking at service dogs is shockingly common. Whistle, clap, none of that shit. Do not do anything to deliberately draw the dog's attention. If they are distracted, the handler could get hurt or even die. Not exaggerating. If a medical alert dog misses an impending medical emergency, the person doesn't have time to get into a safe position or take rescue medications. If they have a seizure or slip into a diabetic coma or something because you distracted their service dog, it is your fault. My dad was paralyzed, so I grew up with his service dogs as my normal. It was always astounding to me that someone would see a dog clearly working, wearing a pack, pulling a man in a wheelchair, and still decide they needed the dog's attention more. There are thousands of other non-working dogs in the world to pet. So many people bark at my service dog. It's so infuriating. Almost as infuriating as people who use my dog as an excuse to hit on me, harass me. Had someone say I should take my leash off of my dog and put it on him and bring him back to my apartment. The flu is not just another cold, and you can't use the words interchangeably. Many people have never had the flu, or felt that unwell. The flu will knock you on your ass. What's funny is I had it the other way around up until last year. I get the flu all the time and it always knocked me on my ass. For whatever reason, I always assumed that was a cold. I always felt like a pussy or just had a shit immune system. Because a cold shouldn't have caused me that much pain. It wasn't until I looked up the symptoms of a cold when I was sick that I realized that you usually don't, if ever, get a fever when you have a cold. I then realized that all the times I stayed home sick, I had the flu. And all the times I went to school despite my nose being kind of runny, I was sick with a cold. Edit, grammar. Everyone seems to get close to wild animals for pictures and think it's okay. We are not all one with nature, and animals like their space and don't trust you. I was at Yellowstone yesterday, and a bear came into a parking lot. Everyone crowded around it, taking pictures. Some people ran off and said the mother would be coming back soon because they thought it was a baby bear. Park ranger comes in a scared or away. Turns out, it was a full-grown black bear. AD means Anno Domini, not after death. I had an argument with my friend's mom a few years ago about this. She said BC was before Christ and AD was after death. I tried to explain to her that that didn't make any sense because then the 33 years of Jesus's life would just be not accounted for. I told her AD meant Anno Domini and she said I think that's the atheist version or something like that, and then stopped listening when I tried to tell her it wasn't because it meant year of our Lord. Anno Domini means in the year of our Lord, and unlike BC it goes before the year. This is AD 2019, not 2019 AD. Basic principles of finance, budgeting, interest, debt, saving, etc. I still think this should be a mandatory curriculum in high school. 4 years or it. Throw in taxes as well. It blows my mind to look back and think about the amount of studying I did on topics I'll literally never encounter again, but basic financial literacy is ignored entirely. Africa is not a country, it's a continent. TBH, I just thought it was a resource dump to harvest for countries looking to colonize. Like finding a crap ton of stone or golden age of empires. And South Africa is a country, not the southern part of Africa. Except that it is. Should've, would've, could've equals the contractions should've, would've, could've. It's not should've, would've, could've. Those word combos make no grammatical sense. Same with your or there's some other grammar mistakes too. Common mistake in Dutch is the equivalent of saying greater as, for example. It's almost as annoying as could care less when they mean could not care less. That you shouldn't be rude to customer service or the cashier cause it's not their fault that the item is expensive. This price is outrageous. I'm not paying this, thank you for ranting at yelling at me, the lowest level employee who has no say in how anything in this company is done or priced and who probably couldn't afford to buy this item if I wanted to. You are meant to do the tutorial in games. The most frustrating thing is when someone is ragging on a game for being confusing and then admit they didn't pay attention to the tutorial. Vaccines are safe and effective. But it is common knowledge. Don't piss on a jellyfish sting. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you're just supposed to pee on the jellyfish. So much about vaginas. If you have a vagina, you do not need to clean it with soap or special cleanser. Inside or out. Also, the outer part is the vulva, the vagina is what's on the inside. Just a clean washcloth and warm water on the outside. The vagina cleans itself, that's why you'll get discharge. Do not douche, and definitely do not exfoliate your fucking vagina. It's not supposed to smell like flowers, it's supposed to smell like vagina. If there is a foul or fishy smell, then you probably have an infection. Otherwise, please just leave it alone. Exfoliate. Ow. Cleans itself? I wish my dick had a little maid that came every day and cleaned it up. You have to look at the toilet paper after wiping to determine how much poo is left on your butt. You also have to touch your butthole with the paper. No, it is not gay to clean yourself. Someone actually believes that it's gay to clean yourself. The difference between there, and there. They're so simple. People who don't know the difference are really doing a disservice to their writing skills. I mean, they're just so stupid. You're allowed to start a sentence, even a paragraph, with a conjunction for the sake of emphasis. I've had multiple people try to correct that, and then I'll show it to a professor and be like, this is grammatically correct, right? And they'll say, of course. I just want to make sure I understand this right. Can you elaborate the meaning of for the sake of emphasis? That margarine isn't butter. It hurts my soul when people refer to margarine as butter. Margarine may be bitter and butter may be better, but I like a bit of both. Edit. This make less sense since op fixed the typo. How to use your debit credit card at a checkout. Using your turn signal. Or as my Irish friend screams while driving, fucking indicate ya bastard. The Electoral College. 2000 and 2016 showed that most voters did not understand how the Electoral College worked. Money disappears when you spend it, it's not magic. That all cows are female. Male animals don't have milk producing udders. Sean. The male version of a cow is called a bull. Incidentally, I recently learned there's no common genderless word for a member of that species. There's cattle for a group of them, but nothing for an individual. It's a little more complex than that. Bull equals uncastrated male. Steer equals castrated male. In North America, other places call them bullocks. Cow equals female that has had at least one calf. Heifer equals female that has not had any calves. Calf equals young of either sex. Ox equals either a castrated male or a female used for working purposes like pulling a plow. That you can wash blood with saliva. Any tips for acquiring a large amount of saliva in a short period of time? Asking for a friend. 3-year-olds cannot yet be aware of their lifelong gender choices and should not be made one thing or another just because the parents have a cause. And 11-year-old drag queen boys should not be doing shows at clubs for men. I just thought this was kind of commonly accepted truth. Turns out I'm wrong. In the United States, only the government, so not private companies, unless acting on behalf of the government, can infringe upon your First Amendment rights. That in the US private companies don't have to give a shit about your First Amendment rights. Correlation does not equal causation. The passing is for passing, not for your leisurely drive under the speed limit. That the sex of a baby is determined by the man's sperm. Basic geography: not being able to point out Turkmenistan on a map is one thing, not being able to point out the Pacific Ocean on a map is another. If a month starts on a Sunday, you're going to have a Friday the 13th. I learned this from doing my own calendars for years. Example, next month, the 1st of September, 2019 lands on a Sunday, so September has a Friday the 13th. Esperanto. I once showed up at work with a shirt reading "I speak Esperanto like a native" and turned out to be the only there who'd ever heard of it. I'm not sure why Esperanto would be common knowledge. It's a constructed language that isn't tied to a geographic or national location and, while popular, isn't on the radar for a vast majority of people. You can easily go your entire life without ever hearing about Esperanto. Oral storytelling. The oldest kind of storytelling. Podcasts and audiobooks are popular modern forms. I made a post in a writing group about the importance of diversity in stories, and someone replied, among other things they said, that blind people couldn't appreciate characters like Daredevil because they couldn't see, so it was pointless to pander to them. Another writer, trying to help, suggested the story be written in Braille. The previous writer clarified Daredevil was a comic book, which is visual, so Braille wouldn't change anything. I don't know how to help these people. It is very rare you have a choice between a good decision and a bad decision on social issues. Generally you have two bad options and you need to pick the least bad one. There's gravity in space. Over the time I've met so many people that thought that there is no gravity in space because everything there is weightless and stuff. Gravity has unlimited range, so there isn't even a single spot in our universe without gravity. Weightlessness is basically just falling. While orbiting you're basically just falling around the object. That there are no tigers in Africa. I was on safari in Tanzania and two others in the truck were discussing how excited they would be to see tigers. I told them there weren't any and they looked all disbelieving and crestfallen, like I was spoiling their fun. They had to check with the guide. The yield sign on highways are there so you look before you just keep going, possibly hitting someone. Happened to a friend's mom. That antibiotics cancel out birth control pills. I have two nephews because of this. There is gravity everywhere. On the ice the gravity is only a bit less than it is on the surface of the earth. The reason the astronauts float around isn't because there's no gravity, it's because they're in a state of free fall. Pandas are endangered.